Why did you choose the Advance?
I don't think I consciously chose a Starlet. I didn't go looking for a Starlet, so it was going to be my second car. And I was coming off a 1.2 Renault Clio, which it was a fantastic car, but probably the least exciting car I could have probably had at the time. I didn't know if I wanted Jap, I didn't know if I wanted Euro. Somebody got in touch with basically a car that hadn't moved for 12 years. It'd been sat in a barn since it had been imported. Did I want to go see it? Well, obviously that sounds like an absolute recipe for disaster, so off I went. And sure enough, it hadn't moved for a very long time. Everything was seized, the brakes were seized, it had no MOT, but it did run. And I think because it ran so well, that was it. So I got it trailered back to Mike's house on Marfleet, stayed up until 3 o'clock that morning, stripping brakes and handbrake cables and stuff, because I needed to get to uni the next day, and obviously get an MOT on it, and then yeah. So within 24 hours, the car that hadn't moved for 12 years was MOT and putting smiles on faces. Completely bog standard ride height. It had 16-inch Innovate wheels on it, which were horrendous. I think it was the ride height, to be honest, not the wheels. But I didn't care, I loved it. It was my first modified car. And it made the doo-doo-doo noises. Big tick in the box there. So yeah, that started the love story with the Starlets. I think I probably did bits and bobs to it, just real starter mods, nothing relating to engine or anything like that. Changed the wheels, put it on lowering springs, put a different exhaust on it, and that sort of ticked away a couple of years, and then it was probably about 4 years after I bought it that I started doing more tuning mods. So I think the first sort of tuning mods were uprated top mount, intercooler. I cringe now when I think about it, but putting a fuel cut defender on it and started pushing a bit more boost and a bit more boost, and then I think it was my 21st birthday, the bottom end let go on the way to work. So that was a fork in the road. It was, do I break it and just kind of think, yeah, I've had some fun and leave it at that, or do I start committing some more money into it, let's just say, rebuild it properly and start getting it mapped and going down the bigger turbo route. And of course, I think once you got the bug, you're in it, aren't you? So bank account got drained, the engine got rebuilt, same engine as standard, so 1.3 turbo, but basically built from the bottom up. So mains, big ends, all seals, everything like that. It's not forged, but I did put piston rings, replaced all the valve stem seals and all the other things that generally go right after you've just spent a load of money doing something else. And then slapped a TDO4 turbo on it, on a top mount intercooler. Took it to tuning developments and had it mapped. There's a whole story there. Turned out that on the map that they'd put on, the standard injectors were on 100% duty and were not keeping up with the fuel on the boost. And then it melted all 4 pistons on leaving bypass racing an XK8. Engine rebuild number 2. I say rebuild, it wasn't really a rebuild, it was another engine that was built up. So yeah, another few £1,000 head gasket, head skimmed, still not forged internals, but again, new bearings, new crank, new everything. LSD gearbox this time. Chucked it all back together and then took it to Will at RDT, which I would highly recommend. Went for a safe map and, touch wood, never had a problem since. So it's only running a bar on a TDO4, but it's torquey, pretty quick. Had a steady few years with it. Put some carbon bits on, so carbon wings. It did have a carbon bonnet. Obviously it's got a full live sports kit. And then just enjoyed some shows with it. Just enjoyed it, drove it. And then, as you do, you kind of look for what's next. So, stripped all the interior out, put a roll cage in it, C-pillar brace, 3-point rear strut, and polybushed everything, got some new coilovers for it. So yeah, I think probably the cage is probably the best handling mod I've done to it so far. Stability in corners is insane. It's still only a 1.3, so it's never going to beat Subarus and things like that, but it's quick enough. And then I'd reached that point where really there wasn't, unless I went forged, which you're talking like £4,000 straight up, there wasn't really a lot more to do to it. and at the time I was ready to leave my parents' house, well overdue, and wanted to buy my own place. So I did sell it, I let it go, and from the day that it went on the trailer, I regretted it. Well, I won't say I regretted it, I missed it, I would say. I didn't regret selling it because I was able to buy my own house, because I needed the money for the deposit, but I did miss it. So then during that space I ended up acquiring several other Starlets, and then 5 years after selling it, it made its way back. So it sat in a shed for the entire 5 years, wasn't driven, wasn't rolled, wasn't moved, wasn't started, and then just out of the blue I messaged the guy and said, I want it back, I've got the money, and he kind of thought about it and he said, yeah, okay. So we went and picked it up, and here it is.
What makes the Advance different to a normal EP82?
So the chassis is exactly the same. The key differences are obviously the body colour. So it's the only Mark III that came in a two-tone body colour, black over grey. A lot of people seem to believe that either one, the Advance is four-wheel drive, which it isn't, believe me, I've tried, or two, they came with an LSD box as standard, which they didn't. A lot of them came with the LSD box because they started just throwing optional extras on them because they were the last run that they ever did of the GT. So they made it like limited edition and started throwing all the optionals on. But it wasn't an absolute given that it come with an LSD box, and that one didn't. I had to put the LSD box on it. But they all came with Momo steering wheel, Momo gear knob, and funny story actually, when I first got that, it had all the original bits inside. Like I say, it was factory standard. And I didn't appreciate at the time, like the value and the nicheness of optional extras. So I sold the steering wheel and the gear knob, kind of like bit of cash my way, and somebody gave me some like replacement bits for it. And I never really thought about it whatsoever, and I bought the car back and it had the same steering wheel on it that I sold it with. But then the green Starlet used to belong, 2 owners back, belonged to the person who I sold the steering wheel from the Advance to. And lo and behold, when I picked the green one up, it had my original steering wheel out of that.
So it's gone full circle?
It's gone full circle.
Just like a steering wheel?
It's a bit worse for wear and it needs recovering. But I never thought about it, but definitely didn't expect to see it again.
And optional extras, if you're well into JDM, are a big thing, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So if you come from not having JDM, you don't realise, but the price of that little dash mat or the cup holders.
Oh. Sometimes worth more.
The coin pocket for coins that we don't use.
Drinks holders for drinks that we don't put in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some crazy optionals for Starlets, like the air purifier, and people pay ridiculous amounts of money for things that were never really that functional.
Or even look good.
No.
Get like a net seat covers.
Parking poles.
Yeah.
Why?
So when did you get the EP70?
The EP70, oh god, I can't remember exactly what year, but I've probably had it 7 or 8 years. So, favourite part about the 70 telling people is essentially I paid 50 quid for it. I bought a 5-door EP82 UK spec Starlet and essentially traded it for the 70. Completely unseen, went with a car trailer to Manchester, picked it up, expecting it to be full of holes, bit peachy, and it was absolutely solid as a rock. It ran, it had the 1 litre carb engine in it, but it didn't have an exhaust. But that didn't stop me from redlining it with the choke out and watching the flames come out of the manifold. So yeah, the 70's been through a lot. It's had 2 or 3 engines in it. It's currently got a 1.3 NA engine in it. It's had a forged turbo engine in it. Drove it around with a turbo engine in for a couple of years. Best fun ever, absolute sleeper. People appreciated it just because it's old, and then when you put your foot down on it, it had a turbo lump in it. Yeah, it was voted car of the show at Hull Motor Show 1 year, a long time ago now. Current status is it runs and it would drive, but I've nicked quite a few bits off it. I've nicked the hubs, bearings and stuff like that to get all the car to warranty. But it will see the road again.
And it wasn't always white?
Originally it was white. It's white on the logbook. The original colour is white, but I sprayed it Fiat Mocha Latte, which is a Fiat 500 colour, and I actually loved it in that colour. Hearing aid beige, prosthetic limb brown. The rear arches, I think the rear arches had started to bubble through. and I think I fancied a change, and anyone who's ever painted anything knows that gloss white is one of the easiest colours to paint, so I think I just went out of laziness for gloss white. But I kind of do miss it in the beige. Never say never, I think I've still got the paint, so...
And you love painting?
I do love painting, I don't love how much time it takes.
So tell us about the green EP82.
The green EP82 was the first EP82 that I got after getting rid of that one, and I had a Glanzer. I loved the Glanzer, but it just didn't scratch the itch of a GT. There's just something about a GT, the presence of them, I think they look a lot more JDM, and I just wanted to be back in an EP82. I was due to get paid my bonus at work, and instead of doing the adult things like paying a bit off your mortgage or paying a bit off the credit cards or whatever, I thought, well, it's probably now or never. It's going to take me a long time to save this amount of money on a monthly basis. So I messaged a good friend and said, let me know if you know of any GTs that are coming up for sale. And he said, well, I've got one. It's just had a full respray. You know the car, and I'm going to be advertising it soon. So obviously jumped straight in the car and took a drive down to Gainsborough. I already knew the car and I knew all the previous owners of it since it got imported, so I kind of knew what I was driving up to anyway, and obviously as soon as I saw it I fell in love with it. They're pretty rare in the Tropicana colour, quite a rare colour, quite a sought after colour. I think it adds a little bit of value to the car. Yeah, it's really weird looking back through photos of all the shows that I'd been at over the past sort of 10, 11, 12 years, and that car is parked next to my car, and at the time obviously I had no idea that I was going to end up becoming the owner of it.
What mods have you done to it?
So the guy who had it before me was big into optional extras. He had pretty much every optional extra going. Of course he'd sold a lot of the optional extras separate, so when I got it, it was a nice sort of clean canvas. I really wanted something that was, tuning wise, was very standard. I just wanted something that was lowered and on wheels, that's all I wanted. And that's exactly what it was, however it did have a stupidly loud exhaust on it, so that had to go. So I started off, first mod I had to do was HKS High Power Silent. I just can't stand the drone of a Blitzen airspec. Fair play to anyone who's a fan of them, not for me. Not in a daily car. Kept the wheels as they are for now, and then I added Blitz access, plug and play. Miles better way to get rid of the boost cut than fuel cut defender. Learned that lesson. So it's got Blitz access. Tweaked the boost up with a wideband up to a bar, so it's running a bar of boost. Still got the standard top mount. I've tried to keep everything in the engine bay relatively as standard as possible because it's just so rare these days to see one that is in fairly OEM condition. I would say it probably gets more attention in a lineup of Starlets just on the basis that it is relatively standard. I think people appreciate that more so now than they did sort of 5, 6, 7 years ago. I've added a couple of braces, so it's got Cusco rear brace, Cusco front brace, upgraded the brakes all round, EBC pads and discs, polybush wishbones, just subtle, nothing sort of glaring. And then obviously there was the unfortunate incident last Christmas, last December. A motorbike overtook a car and went straight into the front of it. There was significant damage to the body panels, so the bonnet was scrapped, the front bumper was scrapped, so the headlights out, the wings, the grille, the fog lights. And I probably didn't realise up until that point how difficult it is to try and source parts these days. Back in the day, you know, you could go on eBay, you could even go to a breaker's yard, you could get parts all day long. Until I needed parts quickly to get my car back on the road, I didn't appreciate how rare things have become. But luckily, some pretty good people out there in the Starlet world managed to get it, source all the parts, get it all sprayed up and get it all turned around and re-MOT'd within 2 weeks.
I want to talk about not having any money.
I'll talk about that all day long. Do you want me to show you the letters I've had?